This is the Top Score Writing, how to teach writing virtually. So if you're using my program or another program, this is just giving you tips on how we can make this work during these crazy times. So my name is Lisa Collum. I am the author and owner of Top Score Writing. I always like to start my trainings with a little backstory so you know I'm not just like some random person. I actually started teaching 16 years ago, and my first year of teaching, I was at the lowest Title I F school in my county. Like somehow that happened. I live in Palm Beach County, by the way, in South Florida. And I immediately asked my principal, you know, where's my curriculum? And she said, oh, we don't really have anything for writing, which I kind of laughed because like the science teacher had like 20 boxes and the math teacher and the reading, but I had nothing for writing. So I was 21, fresh out of college, super excited. And I went home and thought, I've got to make this work. I've got to be successful. I've been waiting for this. I want to be a teacher my whole life. And I just went back to basics. I thought about it. I said, you know what, I'm just going to break down how you write an essay and really make it so kids, it's simple. It's not overwhelming for them, and with just lots of repetition and practice. And that's what I did. And the first year I taught, we went from 38% proficiency to 95% proficiency. And then for 2 years after, 100% proficiency. So I was one of the only teachers to do that, which led me to be investigated by the state twice because they just didn't believe that this Title I F school could get all these kids to pass writing. Everything was always cleared. They came out, they asked a million questions, watched me test them. But it just kind of stuck out. And it wasn't until years later after sharing it with schools and things that I actually started the company. So I am 9 years into Top Score Writing, and what started with a small binder of 20 lessons is now a nationwide curriculum with kits. There's about 4 books per grade level, and we have kids from 2nd through 12th. So I always like to tell it so you know that this is 100% from a teacher's heart. I've been there. I own my own school now as well. So I get to see it from a school owner, author, and a parent. This is my family on the front. That I have 4 kids. I have a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old. I actually have, for the first time ever, I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, an elementary kid, and a preschool kid. Like, when does that ever happen? So I have like every grade level. So it's kind of and of course it had to happen during this crazy year. So I still don't know where one of mine's going to school. Right now he's just going to be home doing virtual. But anyway, so I get it. I've been there. I spent the whole quarantine home with all of them doing work. And so I want to make this transition back into school as easy as possible for you all. So this is the way I'm going to do today's training. I'm going to give you a quick overview on my end of it, just of some simple ways to teach virtual, because you're talking to like the person who's not tech savvy. But I want to tell you how I did it, because I taught, I don't know if any of you were able to use them, but I had over 100 free lessons for 2nd through 8th grade during quarantine when we were on lockdown. I had a free online site. Over 10,000 people use them. And I just taught through Zoom with PowerPoints because I'm just not a techie person. Now that we're like preparing to teach virtual, I've learned about all these other cool ways and tricks that you can use. And so part 2 of this is going to be really digging into, if you have Top Score, how to use our digital curriculum, or whatever you're using, how to use it virtually in a simple way for you and the kids. Because there are a lot of programs out there and we can all dig into them and do cool things. But number 1, do we have time to learn all of them? Number 2, if it's going to make it harder for us or the kids, is it even worth it? So I know I've started looking at some things and I'm still kind of like, you know, I don't want to confuse the kids right now. So let me start with my part, and then I'm going to hand it over to my vice president and digital team, and they will be able to tell you a little bit more. So we've kind of got 3 scenarios that we're looking at with schools. So a lot of schools are doing full virtual. Some are doing in person, and then some are doing a hybrid. And it doesn't matter, like if you have the Top Score Writing program, it doesn't matter if you have the books or the digital curriculum, you can use either for all of these different situations. And I think that even if we're in person, we should probably be prepared to maybe go online. Let's cross our fingers not, but just in case, know how we can easily transition to teaching virtually. The biggest thing is not to overthink it and to keep it simple. And I think I keep reminding everyone, because I kept getting all these emails in like July, like, Lisa, what am I going to do? We have to teach virtual. I don't know what to do. How am I going to use the curriculum? And my first thought was, what do you mean? just teach through Zoom and they'll show the passages. And I was like, what's going on? And then they're like, there's Google Classroom and there's Nearpods and there's this other things they were naming. And I was like, whoa, let's just back up a minute and keep this as simple as possible. So I keep reminding everyone, it doesn't have to be crazy, fancy. But again, regardless if you have a cool digital program or books in your hand curriculum, you can make it work. So let me show you the easiest way. Obviously Zoom, what I'm doing now, you can use Zoom, Google Meets, whatever GoToMeeting, whatever your school uses. You can teach through the computer. So what I did for those 100+ lessons for online just during quarantine was I taught through Zoom and I made PowerPoints. The great thing about Zoom is you can see them, they can see you, you can interact. It's pretty affordable. It's much more affordable than GoToMeeting. If any of you use that, I've actually switched to Zoom. But there's even Google Meets. I have a lot of school districts using that. And so what I did, and again, this takes a little bit of prep, so I'm going to give you other ways too, but I'm just showing you one way. I just made PowerPoints. So I took screenshots of different things in my lessons. This was a PowerPoint on planning, and I went through and the kids came in the classroom and I, went through each slide. I talked through it. I wrote on the screen because with Zoom, just like, I don't know if I can't find my thing now, but you can draw on the screen and then you can erase it. They can type in the chat pod. You can see here, this was on planning. So I was showing them how to plan, showing them how to like box and label their passages. Then I went on. And so because I was making these for kids that did not have or maybe didn't have a printer, I didn't want to expect everyone to have the passages in front of them. So I would put the passages up in the PowerPoint, I'd screenshot it, and I just hold it there. Now, if it was a recording, I'd tell them, pause this video and read the passage. And when you're done, push play. I would always say that to remind them. If it was live, I would say, I'm going to leave this up for a few minutes. Let me know when you guys are done. And they type in the chat pod, done, done, done. And that was how I did it. And it's usually 2 or 3 passages they have to read. I'll give you a little tip too, if you do decide to do this, I stuck to the same few passage sets for about 6 to 8 weeks. Like I would use the bald eagle, the birds one for my modeling piece. And then I'd use the when the bell rings, which is at the end here, the firefighters, for their practice piece. That way we weren't reading new passages every lesson because that would take forever. So if I was teaching planning, I'd model it with the bald eagles and then I'd practice it with the firefighters. And if I was teaching topic sentences, I'd model with the bald eagles and then practice. So I kept using the same couple of text sets over and over again. And then you can see at some point, down at the top right, I turned it into a practice where I had them. So I modeled and then I said, now it's your turn. And so I had them read the passages, I would put them on the screen, and then they would have to do an assignment. Now, if it was something simple, like tell me a transition word, I just had them type it in the chat pod. But if it was, they need to write an introduction paragraph, I had them take a picture and then submit it to me through email. I had another teacher that works in my school that had them submitting through Google Docs. So it just depends on how you want them to submit. If you teach in Florida and you have anyone you're teaching from 2nd grade to 6th grade, they are taking their state tests and they're still writing paper and pencil. So if depending on what state you're in, if they're required to write paper and pencil, I would still have them do it. Typing's great, but you still want them to practice writing on that state writing paper and practicing indenting and how to organize their essay. If they have to type for the state test, then I would encourage them to type it on Microsoft Word and submit it to you. So just know, even if they handwrite it, they can snap a picture and submit it to you. Oh, and this is just like a passage. I would show this, there was 3 pages to this passage, but I would show each one and have them pause it until they're done recording or done reading it. So as far as submitting answers, like I was saying, I always say too, if you can find out, like if you're teaching virtual, I would ask what your math department's doing, because math's kind of in the same boat as writing. It's not like reading and science how we can just submit answers. Like math, you have to show your work. Writing's even harder because the only way to do it is to write something out. But for me, if it was a small question, I'd have them answer in the chat part or even live. I'd say, raise your hand, and I'd have them say the answer to me. But a lot of times I'd have them write out it on paper and take a picture. One week I was working on a whole essay, so I had them get a writing notebook, and you can see I put like a little picture here where I had them put the title and then the date, and they kept what they worked on all week, and then at the end of the week I had them take pictures of all 5 and send it to me in one document. That was easier for me that time. So you could do something like that if you maybe don't want every assignment, but you want them to have it nicely organized. You could have them just start a writing notebook. I think that's the easiest way to keep it all together And that way you could say, okay, I want everyone to turn in Tuesday's assignment this week. That way you don't have to necessarily get an assignment every day. Or like I said, they could always type it up and submit it to you through email or Google Classroom. If you haven't got to play with Google Docs, and I know a lot of teachers are very savvy in this, but if you haven't, an awesome way, an easy, like non-techie person way is to create a table and you put all the kids' names on the left and then you leave the boxes on the right empty. And basically you say to them, the box to the right of your name is your box. And if, let's say you're doing introduction paragraph, you'll say, all right, now it's your turn. I want you to read your passages on bald eagles and flamingos. And then I want you to write your introduction paragraph in your box. And what you're going to see in front of your eyes is all of your kids, if you have 25 kids at the same time, introduction paragraph are going to appear because Google is in real time. So all 20 something kids can write their introduction paragraphs in that box all at the same time. And you can be talking and giving them feedback as they're writing it. So I think this is such an easy way to get them to be interactive, just like they would in the classroom. If you said, write your introduction and you were walking around looking at their papers, this is essentially the same thing. It's just through a Google Doc. And I just want to show you on the next screen too. Once you create this table, go to get shareable link. You don't want to email, I mean, unless you want to email your kids separately, but I wouldn't do that. I just get the shareable link. And then what you do is you go into the chat pod and you put that shareable link in the chat pod and all your kids click on it and then it'll give them access to this table. So if you're in the middle of a Zoom like right now, if I wanted to, I could create it. If I had a Google Doc ready, I could in the chat pod put the little shareable link. You all would click on it and be able to access the doc on the camera and type in your answers. And I could say, you know, what's your favorite place to visit? And all of you right now could put your answer in your box. The kids just need to know their box is to the right of their name. The other thing I love talking about, this was like my best find ever. It's called, it's a Hue, H-U-E Document Camera. It is so simple. It plugs into my USB and whatever I am shining it on shows up on the screen. I'm again, not a techie person, and I thought it was going to be much more, you know, something I needed to practice or read directions. I literally plugged it in and I don't have it set up right now, but if I wanted to show you guys what was on this paper, I could literally just go like that and it would show up on the screen right now in our Zoom meeting. So those of you who don't have like print versions of things or don't have access to the PDF online, you could easily like take your curriculum books and just open. Like I put that passage on the screen, I took a screenshot, but you could just open and with the document camera, hold it up and tell the kids, all right, it's on the screen, go ahead and read the passage. You know, it's $80, which I know is a lot, but you know, if your schools can invest in that, it is worth every penny. And I put the website in the top left, but I want to show you one thing I learned because there is a little other thing you have to purchase because I bought the the document camera and I was all excited. I got home, plugged it in and I'm like, why isn't anything showing? And then they don't tell you that you have to have the software. So just so you know, there is a software, it's $20, it's a license. But they're going to give you all these choices and don't do like I did and accidentally buy the animation software. So all you need is the Pro camera and the basic Intuition software. That's $19.99. You just buy a license. And I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And when I want to do live lessons or recorded lessons, I love to model with kids as I write. In the classroom, I do it underneath the document camera. So this lets me do it virtually. I just get my different colored markers and I sit here on my desk and I just talk to the computer and everything I'm writing shows up on there. This is just a little screenshot I took, and this shows you like you can show a book or the teacher in the bottom right is writing on a piece of paper and what she's writing is showing up on the screen. Okay, so either way. But it's really cool. I will say, let me back up too. You have a lot of options. There's a Hue regular camera and there's a Hue Pro. I bought the regular one first, and for $20 more, the Pro is worth it, and I'll tell you why. The like back core, the stem goes higher, and you can see the whole page of your document. The other one that's not the Pro only goes about this high and you can only see a certain amount of your page. But the Pro has a much longer back end and it can go higher and show your whole document. So if you can, for the $20 more, I think the Pro is worth it. If your school's asking your principal, the Pro is definitely the way to go. It makes a big difference. Now, a lot of you emailed me and said, I use Top Score, I have the digital, how in the world am I going to do this? These are our digital lessons, those of you who are not familiar with Top Score. Basically, every grade level has a kit that's printed, and there's 100+ lessons. all 100 print lessons have been transformed into animated lessons taught by little cartoon characters. And what's great about your digital license is you get everything in these books in PDF, everything. So every lesson, every activity, every passage is available in PDF on the computer, and you get the animated lessons. So if you're teaching virtually, you can play the animated lesson by screen sharing. I could screen share right now with you and play it, and the kids could see it. If I wanted to show you a passage, I could pull up the PDF and I could screen share, and I don't need the document camera, and I don't need to hold up anything in Zoom. I can just show it all on the screen because I have it all with my digital license. The digital lessons, the cartoon characters talk. It's not just a one-time click play kind of lesson where you just sit back and it plays. It's constant clicking next, you know, and that's mainly, you know, to keep, it allows you as a teacher to have control over, or for students doing it on their own, they can have, you know, have to stay interactive with it. I will say this, there's a couple things you can do with the digital. It has audio or not audio. It's up to you if you want to turn the audio on. So sometimes I'll use them and I will still teach. Like if this page was up right now, I would be the one saying, all right, let's read this prompt to the right and identify the key word. You know, example, write an informative essay to present to your class about alligators. Use information from the passages in your essay. You can do it that way where it basically has everything written for you and you're just the teacher talking. Or you can play it with the audio where it does the talking, because you can press a button and this little blue guy will say all that. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But it isn't just a quick play and everyone sits back. But I love this even before COVID happened. I love the digital as for some sort of differentiation. I love to be able to provide the kids with a different face, different voice, different way of being able to learn the lesson. So, because this is like the number one question I ask, if you have our print curriculum just in the books and you say, my school doesn't have any money, we can't buy the digital, I'm stuck, all I have is print, you're fine. Teach through Zoom. The only thing you're going to have to do, which is going to be a little bit of work, is you're going to have to get these passages so the kids can see them on your computer. So you can scan them or you can get a document camera. And just because the kids are going to have to read passages. Another thing a lot of schools are doing is they're buying the passage book for every kid. And then that way, no one needs to print anything or pull up anything. Every kid is taking one of these home. So that's another thing that schools are saying, you know, we have money, what should we invest in? And I always say the passage book for every kid. Make sure they have it at home, because then they're set for the whole year and they don't have to print anything. And then, if you have the print, students can submit their email, Google Docs, however, or Google Classroom. If you have the teacher license, which gives you access to everything in the books online, plus the animated, you can do everything I just mentioned, plus you can share your screen and play the animated lessons. You can share your screen and show any of the PDF documents, and you can upload any of the student worksheets and passages straight into your Google Classroom. We already have it in a little packet. And you're going to see soon, like when Mike gets on here, he's going to show you, if you're doing lesson 23 and you want to assign the worksheets for the kids, you can go to lesson 23 online and it says student packet, and you can click on that and drop it into your Google Classroom or whatever system you're using, and boom, they have their assignment. And then of course, the best of both worlds. If you said, Lisa, money's not an issue, I want my teachers to have whatever they can, I'd say get the combo, because I'm a teacher and I know how we work. We like books in our hands. We like to make sticky notes. We like to write in here. And you would, if you had the combo, you'd have the books in your hand plus access to everything online. So just keep that in mind as well. We did add one more thing this year. We have student digital licenses. So if you are looking for a way to have students to have their own login where you can assign them assignments to go watch on their own, they can each get their own license, and you can say, all right, today's assignment, go watch lesson 24 and complete the activity, and they can log in on their own and do it. Just so you all know, if you aren't familiar with our digital curriculum, it never requires them to type anything online. It will teach through the computer, and at the end, it'll say, okay, now it's your turn, here's the assignment, and they will have to get paper and pencil and write the assignment. Okay, so I want you to know that they're not gonna be able to say, all right, miss, I watched it, I'm done. They're gonna have to say, I watched it, here's my assignment. And that way you're gonna know if they watched it or not, because there's always a follow-up. So a couple tips before we get into how you can use all your Google Classroom and your, I don't even know what the other ones are called, just the techie stuff. If your school can, if every student has student passage workbooks, it'll make all the difference in the world. I would definitely tell kids to get a writing notebook because it's just easier as they're working on everything to say, okay, open up your writing notebook, put the date at the top, and let's write introduction paragraphs or whatever you're working on. If you're thinking about, Lisa, how do I set up my writing lesson? Just like in the classroom, my suggestion is have a little bit of modeling, a little bit of guided practice, and then an independent always. If you have 30 minutes, you can do 10, 10, and 10. It's the best way of teaching. It keeps things short and simple. I always joke and say that kids have Fortnite brains nowadays. No one can like stand listening to anybody more than like 10 minutes. We like lose them. So I always say they want everything quick, right? Their phones give them everything quick. And so as much as we can keep things short and simple, the better. So we work on a skill, I model it, you guys try it with me, and then you do it on your own and submit it to me later. I always talk about sharing examples and non-examples. Use their work, okay? And let me back up a second and explain that real quick. Everyone always goes, what are you talking about, examples and non-examples? We're always showing kids what right looks like, but we forget we have to show them what wrong looks like, because they'll identify with the wrong and they'll be like, oh, I'm doing that. Now I get it. So make sure you're constantly showing like a non-example next to an example. So if you keep saying to a kid, you know, you don't have enough elaboration in your middle paragraphs, or you need more evidence, show them a non-example that doesn't have evidence next to an example that does have evidence, and I guarantee they're all going to go, oh, now I see what you mean, because they think their one sentence of evidence is great, but when you show them the difference of non-example to example, they're like, now the light bulb goes off. You can do little daily assessments that they can self-check. We do highlighters with Top Score. If you've never been to one of my trainings, I always talk about color coding. So let's say they're writing a middle paragraph. I'll tell them to color code all their quotes in blue, all the times they paraphrased in green, and all their own thoughts and ideas in pink, just as an example. And that way they have to self-assess and make sure they put a little bit of quotes, a little bit of paraphrasing, a little bit of own thoughts and ideas. Same thing with like introduction paragraph. I'll teach them, you know, they need to have a hook, and then there are 3 topics and then a closing. They'll highlight each one in a different color. That's their way of being able to self-check if they have the right pieces in each paragraph. The other thing I always share with is, and I'm sure you guys know this, but just use the online timers as much as possible. I always say time makes everything fun. It can make anything into a game. I've had kids writing full-on essays and I make it into a game because I put time behind it. I call it race against the clock, and they think it's the funnest thing ever. And I always compare it to, if you're a parent and you need your living room cleaned, tell your kids whoever cleans up the most in 2 minutes is the winner, and your living room will be spotless, because suddenly you make it into a game. So as much as you can, put time behind it with writing and make it into a game, make it fun, especially if you're live on Zoom. And then you can have the little timers that like the person runs across the top of the screen. That'll just make it fun. And then writing around the home, it's so funny because I've always said this, but in this whole quarantine, I think I've been in a news interview like 100 different times, and everyone always says, Lisa, how can moms and dads keep writing fun at home? And I always say, number one, writing around the house. What I would do if they have to write an essay, and if you're teaching live in Zoom, I'd say, all right, today's assignment, I want you to go into your kitchen and write your introduction paragraph. Then go to your dining room and write your topic 1 paragraph. And then go outside and write your topic 2. And then go in your bedroom and write topic 3. And then I want you to pick your favorite spot to write your conclusion. And now you just made it into this fun game. They're writing an essay, but now they get to move around the house. They're going to these different spots, and their mom's probably like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm writing an essay. But because you made it around the house, suddenly it's this fun thing. Same thing with author's chair once a week. They can, you know, pick a chair in the house and read their essay to someone in their house, and that's kind of like their showcase that week. So anything different is fun. I always remind teachers of that silly things we may think, you know, they're not going to want to write an essay just because we put time. It's different, so it's fun. They honestly do like it. With Top Score writing, we have checklists in every section. If you've never gotten to the end of each section, there is a checklist. What I would do in the beginning of the year is train your kids on this checklist, because they can use this every time they write, and that way they don't have to constantly ask you, did I do it right? Can you look at this? They're going to know before they submit it to you if they have all the pieces. You can see in this I paragraph here, which is the introduction paragraph, it says hook, 3 topics, closing. So they know they need to have those 3 pieces in their I paragraph. They know with T1, which is topic 1, they need to have transition word, topic, sentence, their A and B details, and so on. So I train them on this. That way they can check their own paper. Also, too, when I conference with them or I check their papers, I use this checklist and I write feedback on there. I'm going to show you the next slide, then I'm going to go back. Here's a filled out checklist that I did for a student. Let me tell you why this is such a good way to score and give feedback. When I hand this checklist back to a kid, they know exactly why they got the 7. They're not just going to say, oh, I got a 7. I wonder what I did wrong. They're going to know, because wherever there's an X, that's where there was a problem. So they're going to know, oh, in my T2, I forgot to cite my sources. And oh, in my T3, I didn't have enough sentences about my A and B details. Oh, she said my paragraph's too short. So right next to the paragraph, I'm putting the X's and checks, and then I'm writing notes. So they know exactly what I'm talking about. So when I conference, it's literally a 30-second conference because they already know from the notes. And then just so you all know, I put these 3 bullet points in the top right. That's just something I do. I always give them their paperback with the top 3 things they need to work on. And that way they have a focus for the next time they write. I don't want to write all 20 things they did wrong. I just picked the top 3. But I love this checklist because they can literally pinpoint the area that they got marked off for. And if any of you are looking at this like, what is this checklist? Just so you know, in the boxes where it says QPO, Q is quotes, P is paraphrasing, and O is own thoughts and ideas. So in that topic 1 paragraph, they had 1 quote. So I put a check next to quote. They paraphrased twice. So I put 2 paraphrase check marks. And then they did 3 own thoughts and ideas. So I put 3. That's just for them and me to know they had a little bit of all the elaborative techniques. Okay. Now, if there were nothing in the boxes, I would say to them, you didn't put any of that. Or if it was all cues, I'd say you have way too many quotes. So these are great checklists. Now, you can see here, this is a worksheet, a screenshot. This is in the curriculum. This one is a sticky note that I get made. I get these made because I stick them on the front of the papers and I give them the papers back like that. We do sell these if you want the fancy sticky notes, or this is in the curriculum. You could just make a copy and you can write it up and email it to the kid. But the way that I see conferencing and what I've been doing for the small groups that I've had a conference with is I do the same thing I do in the classroom. Think about this. If you're going to have a conference day, you're probably going to give out an independent assignment and start calling the kids back, right? Having little mini conferences. And if you guys have never heard me talk about conferencing, I'm not going to get into that today, but I live in the real world and I'm talking about 60 seconds, okay? Maybe 2 minutes at tops. I'm not talking about sitting down having full-on conversations. Again, they have Fortnite brains. Keep it short and simple. Okay, I can pull this checklist up. I can say, all right, let's talk. Your paper was great, but look at your T2. You forgot to cite. Remember, you always have to cite those sources. And then look at your T3. You didn't have enough evidence in there. You have to add more with your A's and B's. And then I always give them an opportunity to redo a part of the essay. I never make kids revise the whole essay. I think that's like the worst thing ever. I just wrote the whole thing and now my teachers make me rewrite the whole thing. So I always have them revise a part. I'll say, you know what? If you go back and rewrite your T2 and add your citing your sources, I'll change your score. And they'll go back and add it. And that allows them, we had a conference, they're getting to review and revise and getting to see how to make their paper better in one quick little move, then they know exactly from this checklist. So keep in mind, you still can conference. What I would do is set conference days a couple times a month, have an independent assignment already emailed out to them or up on the portal, whatever you're doing virtually. And they know that day they are working on those independent assignments, and then send out conference times that they log into Zoom and have maybe 2 or 3 kids at a time for 5 minutes. Maybe 10 minutes at the most, and they know, okay, you're coming in from 11 to 11:10, you're coming in from 11:15 to 11:25, and that way they can all come in, they have their short little conference with you. And who knows, there may be a couple kids you got to do one-on-one depending on, the severity of their paper, but a lot of them have the same issues, so you can bring them together and talk about it. So people say, how are we going to conference? I think we can totally do it. It's just, you're going to have assignments or something for the other kids to do while you're doing the conferencing. All right. And the last thing before I go over the other piece is I always talk about tracking kids, but I think even more during this virtual teaching. And again, because I'm not tech savvy, I use Excel. I don't get fancy with anything. I use an Excel spreadsheet. I put their names on a list and I leave blank columns. And I literally handwrite on my clipboard Like Monday, I'm working on planning, so I put M planning. Tuesday intro, W intro, Wednesday intro. And literally whatever I'm teaching, I just put like a check or an X if they got it or not. That, because I'll never remember, especially when I'm teaching virtual. It's very hard to keep track of everything. So after I get done teaching planning, I'll have marked a check who got it. That way I know, okay, most of my kids got it. Or if I want to do small groups one day, I can pull up exactly who didn't get it. You can do it this way, or this isn't, and I change back and forth, but these are little codes. You can totally make up anything. These are my codes for my brain. I do like P if they're struggling with planning. NF means not finishing. ET means elaborative techniques. I means introduction. These are just my little notes. Like if I'm looking at all their essays one day, I'll make little notes of who needs to work on everything. And then I can build my small groups from there. Like right away, I already know I have a group for planning. I see all those P's, and I have a group for not finishing. So for me, I think it's hard enough to track in the classroom, but it's going to be a little tougher virtually. So keeping any type of tracking, it can be super, informal, just on piece of paper and pencil, just for you. Because when you get done with a lesson, you might be like, oh, I forgot who answered that. I don't even know who put the right thing. But if you have something real quick, as they're giving the answers in the chat pod or saying them, you can quickly just check. And then you'll be able to see, oh, okay, most of them got it. Maybe I should touch base with so-and-so because he seemed lost. And that way you can remember. I just think it's a good way to stay on top of things. All right, so that's my quick, simple overview. And now I kind of want to let you guys, because I know everyone has different platforms they're using. And I just want to let Mike and the team take over to show you how those can work with our products, any products, and you can use different platforms and things like that. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike now.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. Appreciate everyone taking the time tonight too. One quick question before I get started, and then I'll do a little intro while everyone's typing this in. But if you could let me know for your distance learning, what you guys are going to be using for next school year. So, or for the opening of school, are you using Canvas? Are you using Google Classroom? Are you using Blackboard, Edmodo, Schoology? You're not sure. I know there's a lot of people out there on Teams. Kind of let me know what you're using so that this way I have a good idea of what we're going to show. Lisa did mention something too about being techie. I always say that the least techie teachers, and I guess I've always been classified as techie when I've worked in the school. But I said it's the least techie teachers that I tend to be the most creative, right? Because you really sit there and look to understand things and look for the resources. So if you're on here and you're like, man, I really don't feel like I'm a techie, it really is a good opportunity this time. And I think a lot of teachers have that techie in them. And hopefully with what we put together, we're going to give you an opportunity to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to do a little walkthrough on the digital. And a couple things before I go through this. I'm going to show you which I'm really excited about. Our digital, we partnered with Canvas this year, so we are in Canvas, and I saw a lot of you putting in there that you're in Canvas, which is great because this is going to be seamless for you. And the second, sort of contender there, which it's pretty typical from what we've been seeing, has been Google Classroom. So I'm going to show you how, even though we're in Canvas, how you could take our Canvas lessons and use them in Google Classroom. I'm going to start off with the teacher view. So this is the teacher view we're looking at now. And a lot of people ask me, our team on the digital side with Ryan and Jeremy and Robbie, we get questions daily on, hey, does this integrate with Google Classroom? Does this integrate with Teams? Does this integrate with just everything? Does it integrate with my home alarm system? I think we've gotten it all. And the short answer is yes. We've really designed this in a way that you can use it on any LMS. And what I mean by that is the resources can be ported and sort of put in. Now, is there a direct sync always where you're going to be able to sync in and just automatically have the lessons pull in? I know someone put in there, hey, I wish you guys had Google Slides for this. I'm going to show you some stuff that's kind of workaround for that. So, the short answer is all these technologies do have a way to work together. And we're going to show you that, but there are also limitations. So I also kind of want to be transparent about that. But I think you're going to be really excited when we get to the end of this. And then obviously we'll answer some questions as we go to the end of the program for you if you want to go a little more in depth on anything. So we're going to start off in the teacher view. I'm actually logged into Canvas already as a teacher. So when you purchase the digital product from us, you're going to get a login to Canvas. If you're already on Canvas, the great thing is too, you can merge it with your existing Canvas account and it'll show up there with all your other classes. So here you can see as a teacher, there's kind of three phases we're going to go through, right? The first one is planning. The second one is teaching. And then finally, we know we're going to assess our students and sort of work with them on the assignments. So let's say I'm a teacher, I'm in the planning phase right now, as we know many of us are, and here is my 4th grade class. And if you guys used the content last year, a lot of you, you're gonna say, oh, this is like really kind of familiar. It looks like what we did last year, but it's way more enhanced. So we really wanna make sure that we kind of made it a little more user-friendly and put everything right in one place for you to be able to access. So when you go into the teacher here, and like I said, let's say this is our night before planning, you're gonna see that you have everything you need right here. You have your sections, and then you have all the lessons that are in that section. And when I go in, we're going to take a look at lesson 25 today. It's going to open up, and then what's going to automatically load is those animated lessons that Lisa was talking about. So we're going to see these come in. Our little minion guys are going to jump in. And Lisa told you that you have a few options here, and I'm going to talk about that in the instruction. You can do it with or without audio. But everything in here is going to be narrated, and everything you're going to be able to go through from a planning as you're working. The other thing that we've done is we've put the teacher lesson plans and the student packets right here. And these are two of the coolest things that I love. So the teacher lesson plan, when you click on it here, it's going to go ahead and it's going to download that teacher lesson plan. And clicked in the wrong place, I apologize. But I'm going to go ahead and open this for you. So when you open this teacher lesson plan, you're going to get basically everything you need to teach this lesson all in one easy to use packet. Now, like Lisa mentioned too, this is exactly from the book. I mean, you could see the pages from the book on here. We just broke them up into easy to use, right at point of use PDF packages. And you can see there's kind of a script in here. So if you've never used our curriculum before and this is the first time seeing it, you know, we've got the script in here. We've got the passages you're going to use. It explains to you how to teach it, how to instruct. So everything you need is right here in the teacher lesson plan. Also, all this thing here where it shows you the arrows and what you need to talk about and what you need to do, that's going to be in that animated lesson. So if I go back into that lesson 25, what you're going to see is you're going to see the actual lesson itself. So I do want to pick up where I left off. You're going to see that lesson itself right in here. So we're going to go into lesson 25. And there's sort of two different options here for the lessons. And like Lisa said, you know, I really like teaching it and talking. I like lecturing over the lesson and kind of giving that guided practice as well. So you can do that as you're going along, or it does come with an audio piece where you can click here and you're actually going to hear a narration.
You will practice planning for informative prompts. In response to text, you will read.
But like I said, if you don't want to do that, you can go ahead and just hit continue and sort of lecture over the lesson itself. Like I said too, the great thing about this is it's that teacher lesson plan. Someone mentioned, hey, I wish you had this in Google Slides. This is really kind of that PowerPoint on slides already done for you. So everything's right in here. So the question I very often get asked with that is, well, can we put this presentation itself into Google Slides or into Teams, or can we pull this sort of animated lesson in? So the question, or the answer to that question, unfortunately, is no, you can't pull it in. But what I'm going to show you how to do is, so we're recording this right now. So what a lot of teachers are doing that are using our digital, and we have schools that have already opened up, is they're giving the lecture here on Zoom, and they're giving sort of that talk as you're going through the lesson. They're explaining things, and they're giving the lecture as if they were doing it right in front of their classroom here on Zoom, and they're recording it just like we are. And then I mentioned to the student packet as well. So you have the teacher packet and you have the student packet. Well, when you download the student packet, and I already downloaded it just so I could show it to you guys, the student packet comes with everything you need to give to the students. So you have the worksheets that the students are going to work on. You have the passages that are going to go along with that content. And this is really exciting because this is new for this year with our digital. So it's a downloadable student packet that students can download. You could easily make photocopies of it. If you know, some schools are making photocopies of it and they're handing them out as the students are coming, you know, to pick up. Some schools are doing like once a quarter supply pickup. Some are doing once a week. Like Lisa said, if you want, you can buy the passage workbooks. So all the students will need is those worksheets, and they'll have the passages with them, completely up to you guys. But what I like about this too is they can download the passages on their computer. And if they're on a Mac, if they're on a PC, if they're on an iPad, usually through Adobe or through just even like I'm using Preview, which is the free sort of software right here on the Mac. I do have the ability to go through and I could highlight on here. I could draw, I could, you know, put little arrows in. So they could do a lot with these PDFs. They're interactive PDFs that they could use right on their computer. And then they have the ability to send them into you as well. So we really sort of built everything in here that you would need to give the students. And you can see they could work on it. And then they could either re-upload the packet with their name on it. They could go ahead and put that in and send that into you online. So if I wanted to have this right here, I can say this is Mike Tukera's work. And I could go ahead and submit that. Now, this is obviously if they're using it on their computer. And like I mentioned, if not, then what you can do is, well, then Mike, how do I get into Google Classroom, or how do I get, if I'm going to use your student login? So, you have everything here. Like Lisa says, it doesn't always have to be all digital. You could do the presentation digital, but we have those student packets. So now I'm going to stop on the teacher portion, and I'm going to go to the student side of things. So here we are in a student login on our end. And I don't want to get too much into this, because if you guys are using Canvas and you're familiar with the platform, you already know how to use the student assignments, how to get them. You can see for the students, they're going to have those same lectures, those same lessons. They're going to have everything that you saw in there. They're going to have the same animated lessons. You have the ability to assign them those student packets that I was showing you directly, so they could work on that lesson 25 assignment right here. It's going to be given to them. They can work on the packet right in Canvas. They could do everything right here. So very simple if you're using Canvas with us from like that beginning to end. If you're not, and you're just getting the teacher access, so let me be clear on this. Let's say you purchased the teacher digital access. You have that animated lesson. You recorded the lesson on Zoom. And then you also have the student packet that you want the students to work on. So we're going to go in, and let's say your school is using Google Classroom. And if you guys are using Google Classroom, you know how to get to this point. And usually too, if you're in a class on any LMS, like I said, Edmodo, Schoology, Google Classroom, whatever it is, they're all about the same, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to create an assignment. So we go to the assignment section, and we're going to call this Top Score Lesson 25. And on that, what we're going to do is now we're going to add the content that we have. So here you can see in the Google Drive, I've already uploaded that Zoom lesson that I did. So now I have the video of the Zoom lesson. I could go ahead and I could sort of put that right in here. And then the other thing that I'm going to be able to add is I'm going to be able to add the student packet that we downloaded as well. So when I go into the Google Drive, I'm going to add the student packet for lesson 25 as well. So in here, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to hit make a copy for every student so that they get their own version of this as well. And now that the assignment's in here, you can see I took that lecture. So like I said, that question I got before, can I put this in, is there a PowerPoint I could upload in the Google Slides? Is there a PowerPoint I could upload into Edmodo? No, there's not, but you can record yourself giving the lecture, or you can record that digital animation as you're going through it and upload it into here so that your students are able to access that remotely. Then we go ahead and hit assign, and then it's pretty much good to go for the students to be able to access it. So, really simple, very easy way to put it in here. Like I said, students can view the video, which I'm not going to play because you pretty much saw me do it. But now I want to talk a little bit about the student packet in Google Classroom. So the question here is, just like I showed you on the computer, the way I was able to edit with the PC tools, you can do the same thing in the Google Suite as well. So what a lot of people would do is they'll go to open with Google Docs, and if you do it, this thing's going to look like it was written in hieroglyphics. So don't do that. Just like on your computer, if you tried to open a PDF in Word, it wouldn't work. But if you go to what's called Loom PDF, and the great thing about this is Google Drive is going to tell you to use Loom PDF. It's going to tell you to use that software. You'll click on it, which I've already done. It'll ask you to install it, and then it's going to go ahead and it's going to open the PDF for you. So you're going to see it's going to go through this little sort of transition phase here, and then it is going to basically open the document, which I've already done at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and jump to it. And then just like I showed you on the other one, you have the ability to go in here, and like I said, you could use a text box, and you could type your name in here. So I could say this is Mike Ficara. And then you also have the ability to go to the passages, and you could do things like highlight or draw or underline, whatever you may want to do on that individual lesson as well. So really gives you all the tools to interact and engage with the PDF. So like I said, to the original question, does this integrate with Google Classroom? Does it integrate with all these other LMSs? The short answer is yes, because you have that student packet now in our digital system that you could download and share with anyone in there. And then obviously students, once they complete this lesson, they could just submit it to you, and then the teacher could grade it. So, we really tried to make sure that we used Canvas because it seems to be the LMS a lot of people are on, but we also made it so that if you need to pull the resources out or pull those other components in there, you are able to do that, and you are able to upload those. So you get the full teacher lesson plan, exactly what's in the book. You get the full student packet, exactly what's in the book. Really easy to upload, really easy to distribute. So hopefully that was helpful. I'm going to turn it back over to Lisa, who's going to kind of wrap things up here. But my team is here. For those of you that have the digital, we are here to help you. My email is mike@topscorewriting. If you have any questions, mike@topscorewriting.com. And I hope you all have a great evening.
All right, perfect. So hopefully that gave you a little bit more insight on the specific way to use Canvas and our digital program. And the biggest question we always get is how to make the PDFs edible. Making, you know, that way the kids can write on them, but also being able to submit, that way they don't always have to print, things like that. So there's lots of different ways we can make this work. And depending, if you go back to your school and you guys are using something different, you can always email us and we can help you out. So just to give you a couple more, let me get back, I want to screen share with you. Here we go. All right. So just to give you an idea, because I had a lot of questions about the passage books and things like that, but if you have a curriculum kit, these are our curriculum kits. The top here, green, is our second grades. These are the print books. So like second grade gets 3 books. There's sections 1 and 2 in the first book, sections 3, 4, and 5 in the second book, and then a whole book of passages. So those book of passages, for every grade level, there's over 100 passages. They've already been paired. They already have prompts written to them. You get a basic prompt and an advanced prompt, and they already are Lexiled by Metametrics, which is Lexile.com. So all that extra research we always have to do as teachers of going digging for passages and trying to find them on level and then same topic, already done, over 100 per grade level. So what you'll see when I show in the next few slides is that the lessons will tell you what passages to use. You'll see third grade has 4 books. 4th and 5th grade. 4th is the top, 5th grade is the bottom. They have 4 books in their kit as well. And then those of you who are middle school, this slide is not updated, but just so you know, I know it says 6th through 8th, but we actually have an entire curriculum for 6th grade by itself that has 3 books, an entire curriculum for 7th grade that has 3 books, an entire curriculum for 8th grade. So we split that up and wrote new curriculum this spring and summer. So that way every grade level has their own. And then a couple of you asked about high school. We do have high school as well, although our high school is in the last stages of editing. So that will be ready in September. But 2nd through 8th grade is ready to go. Many of you already have it. So the kits, like I said, give you all the lessons, all the activities, all the passages. And then if you had a teacher license, you would have access to everything in those books as a PDF online. So it really is day-to-day lessons. You don't have to do it like that, but I wanted to create it so you could open up day 1, lesson 1 and turn the page. Day 2, lesson 2, turn the page. Everything's there for you. There's already the modeling, the guided, the independent, the quizzes, the tests, the homework. Not that you have to do it all, but if you feel like giving a quiz, it's there for you. If you feel like giving homework, it's there for you. And that's what you would have access to in your books as well as online as PDFs. And we have those digital lessons. Everything's written like a script. You can totally read it word for word. You can make it your own, totally up to you. And then I already made the examples for you that you can use with the kids. So if you're trying to model something, the example to model with is already done for you. For every assignment or quiz or homework or guided practice or independent, I already gave the sample answer for you in the lesson. So it's already outlined. So it's pretty much done. That way it can make your life a little easier. So here's just a screenshot of a lesson plan just so you can see it. You will see this is lesson 48 on introduction paragraph. If you look down here in the bottom left, there's a box that says the following passages will be used in this lesson. So that lesson uses those 4 passages. So you would go into the passage book as the teacher, and you would either show the document camera or screenshot it, or if you had the digital curriculum, you'd pull the PDF up, but you know exactly what passages are going to be used in each lesson. All right, and then you can see like I did the planning example that you can model on the board or on your screen, those you're doing virtually, and then going to the next page, it already has the example of what the students should have done, and I always color code. You can see like my hook is in red, my 3 topics or reasons are in blue, and my closing is in green. And then there's the follow-up, which has the guided practice, guided and independent, which in those color-coded paragraphs, I gave you the answers to those, which I'm going to show on the next page. So here's the 2 assignments they have. Not that you have to give them both, but if you want to. And then back in the lesson, those are the answers of the examples. Obviously, every kid's going to have different answers, but you'll see a sample answer of what they can submit. Okay, and those are created. Now, if you have our curriculum and you're like, well, how am I going to get these on the screen? These don't have to be on the screen. You could easily tell kids, open up the passages on More Time in Classrooms, read those 2 passages, and then write the paragraph in your writing notebook. They don't have to write on these worksheets. They're made for you, so you don't have to recreate it, but they can always just write in a spiral notebook if you just tell them the assignment. The whole program, those of you who are not familiar with it, or those of you who are new to it, just so you know, it's great for your kids that are really low and great for your kids that are really high. I know that may sound crazy, but I tutor kids that are three grades below level, and I tutor a whole bunch of gifted kids. Writing is writing. I think they all kind of start at the same level, and it's all the same skills. So there's lots of explicit skill practice, tons of repetition and practice. I keep going back to that. There's tons of research on repetition and practice, and that's what kids need. Lots of visuals, structure, color coding, marking up the text, everything, every strategy you can think of is built in there. That way you can use it with their kids. And everything can be done virtual. So you have the daily lessons, you have the activities, and all the passages. Truly everything you need and more to teach writing the whole school year. Those of you, a lot of you had asked about professional development in the chat pod. We do offer professional development. I strongly encourage it. I've done a whole bunch through Zoom. We do in person as well. I did one in St. Lucie County the other day. Everyone stayed like 20 feet back at the cafeteria, but I was able to talk up at the front. But we do have online through Zoom like this. We also have a pre-recorded. I recorded my entire 3.5-hour training and split it up into 6 sessions. And if a school wants to buy that, it's all yours for the year. So you guys could, they're like 45-minute chunks. You guys could watch it as you want throughout the year. So I know there's a lot of overwhelming training happening right now with how to teach virtually. So if you're like, I can't take one more thing, you could just, your school could purchase it and have it the whole year, and maybe watch it later in a PLC meeting throughout the year a couple times, or, you know, it's broken into pieces. But just know there's tons of support. Even if you didn't do that, if you just followed Top Score Writing on Instagram and Facebook, you would get every tip you can possibly think of, because I think I do at least a tip every week. There's already been 100 tips put out over the years. So, and I'm going to show you the social media stuff after, but you're going to get enough support for the entire year nonstop. So I try to, the thing that always bothered me being the owner of this was that people bought the books and then it was like, I wasn't there to answer all the questions. So I always want to make it as easy as possible to access us, to get support, to get tips, to get scope and sequence pacing, you know, whatever you need, the pacing guides for the year, everything, that support is there for you. So before I go to the giveaway, I want to show you one thing. What I went over with you today is like one small little piece of the stuff that I can share with you and have shared. And I'm always doing videos and creating documents and sending out tips. And the only way you get them is by being on the email list. So if you're not on our email list, just make sure you sign up. All you do to get on our email list is go to topscorewriting.com and click under learn more. And it says sign up for email list. You just type in your email and push submit and you're done. Anything that's going to come out, which is always tons of stuff almost every day, will go through that email list. And like I was saying before, if you have Facebook or Instagram, if you like and follow, you'll have access to everything. You can go on Instagram and scroll down and just see, whenever you see video, you can click. Whenever you see tip, we used to have Teacher Tip Tuesdays, you can click, everything's there. And then we do have a whole YouTube channel, which has like every video I've ever made, which some of them are like way before we had good cameras and lighting. So I might like be like in a really dark hole, but I have lots of videos on there as well. So let me back up a minute, because all of you who are in here are going to be in a giveaway. I did this yesterday. I think I did the same webinar, and we picked our winner, and she's already got her digital license. So there's two ways to get your free digital license. So just for being here, you're in the giveaway. Okay, by the end of the night, we'll pick someone and we will email you. We ask that if you win, to share on social media, because I want everyone to know we're picking winners and we're actually giving you the stuff. So you'll see when you go on, if you have Facebook, we've given out AirPods and Amazon gift cards and teacher digital licenses and document cameras. I have document cameras. So we're constantly giving away stuff. So you'll get one just for being in here. And then the second way to do a giveaway, and I'm gonna close this one by the end of the week, is just after today's session, if you just share something you learned or liked about this training, and if you tag Top Score Writing, that's all you got to do. And just that tag will get you in the giveaway. If you post it and don't tag, I don't see it because I don't know everyone's profile. But if you tag us, you're in that giveaway, and we'll let you know by the end of the week, and you can get your free teacher digital license, which will give you the entire kit and those animated lessons. So just make sure when you do post that you post just on your, personal page, and you just tag Top Score Writing. I think a lot of you are already in our VIP group, but if you do have Facebook, probably the best thing you can do is join our VIP group, because there's like a giveaway every other day. And all you have to do, I don't know if I have a picture, I don't think I do, but all you have to do is search Top Score Writing VIP teachers, and it's free to join. And what's great about that is I do Facebook Live mini trainings all the time. So, and all the scope and sequence calendars are on there as posts. So if you're second, I think I put second, third, fourth, and fifth, I have all the scope and sequence as posts. So you can just go scroll through, download those, and you have a whole pacing guide already done for you. There's a training on it as well in there. So make sure you join that VIP group. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's training. I tried to ease your mind and give you some easy ways to make my program or any program work virtually. And just know this is our website and phone number and email. So feel free, if you go back to your school, you have any questions, or even as you get into the year, come October, November, if you're like, this isn't working, or this is working, or can you help me with this, shoot us an email or call us, and we will be happy to answer your questions and support you. I know this is a crazy year, so we want to make sure we're helping as much as we can. All right, so have a great night. Thank you so much for coming. I know it's late and we all have a million things to do, so I really appreciate your time. And best of luck to this school year. I know that it's going to be great. I know it sounds crazy, but I always say it's going to be the best school year ever, because we're going to tackle it and make it work. So enjoy the rest of your night and have a good day. And I look forward to those giveaways and sending emails to the winners. All right. Have a good day, everyone.